I'm Chris Ryan from Melbourne University, from the Australian Centre for Science, Innovation and Society, and Director of the Victorian Eco-Innovation Lab, of which the Sustainable Melbourne and Sustainable Cities projects are part. For those of you who haven't been before, this has certain ritualistic components, which I need to just make sure that you understand. At all of these events, we offer 7 people an opportunity to talk for 3 minutes and 3 slides. And we have over here on the throne an old-fashioned egg timer, which tells them how much time they have. And the idea is that we select 7 projects, generally across the city, in which people are engaged in sustainability in Melbourne. And part of the aim of the Sustainable Melbourne and Sustainable Cities project is to expose the activities that are happening at different levels and in different areas of the city towards sustainability. And the idea of this event is to help make connections between those otherwise sometimes quite constrained activities, because it is through connections that we believe that we can assist in making big system change to Melbourne to bring it towards something that might be called sustainability. So that's the ritualistic component. After the speakers, generally there is a great opportunity for us to imbibe and to network, and networking is fundamentally what we are about. Tonight we want to add a small extra dimension, and you will see it firstly from the presentations. No city in Australia, or I think anywhere else in the world, can talk about sustainability without dealing with a number of very fundamental resources, of which for us in Melbourne, water is probably the most fundamental. So today's presentations are all going to focus on water. Now for us in Melbourne, of course, this takes on a very particular aspect given climate change. And it's interesting, I've just been at a presentation in the Netherlands, which is focused on the next 100 years of development for the Netherlands, where I have to say that water was a critical issue, but a fundamentally different issue. It's there absolutely about how you keep it from flooding in with sea level rise, with a country and cities that are already about, in some cases like Rotterdam and Amsterdam, at about -5 metres. And how do you deal with projected 6-metre rise over the next 100 to 150 years? But also there, the issue is the amount of water that falls on the Netherlands and how you deal with that given sea level rise. So there they have a problem of wet feet, and we think we have a problem of dry feet. One of the things, of course, that we need to emphasise with climate change is that, as one of the recent international scientific events has emphasised, that whilst we have a pretty good idea about the general trends with climate change globally, the ability to take from that data and project reasonably is not very good. It's probably nowhere near as good as it has generally been assumed, and that's partly because of the difficulties of dealing with the complexities of weather patterns. Generally, we assume, and the best predictions are, that the kind of drought that we've had in Melbourne will be very much part of our future, that we can look forward to a future where we can remember back to days in which Melbourne had 600 rainfall per year, and where we can expect a far less than that in the future. But those projections are not very good. What is very good, I think, from climate change, and perhaps in the end is far more important, is instability. We can certainly predict that whilst the general trends in Melbourne might be towards lower and lower water, that's just the general trends, and instability will be far more of it. So we can expect floods, we can expect storms, we can expect high winds in areas that used not to have it, we can expect fires, and the unpredictability of those weather events is likely to grow. So when we focus on water and water for future sustainable Melbourne, we need not just to think about how we live with a resource that's increasingly scarce, given our consumption, but how we also live with a resource and a weather system that is likely to be unpredictable and face us with very unpredictable contrasts like flood following drought. So as we turn our attention to that tonight, we're going to hear from our 7 speakers. And then before we let you have your alcohol, we want to engage with a conversation. And that's because the City of Melbourne has a project for which they are engaged in widespread consultation and a very strong engagement with the University of Melbourne and a number of other universities in trying to understand the way that the city should develop over the next 10 to 20 years. And the Future Melbourne project, of which there is information around, and many of you will have picked up, and I hope many of you already know, has, of course, to deal with issues of climate change, amongst many other issues of population and of technology and of all of the other aspects of the future economy of a city. But tonight we're going to help the Future Melbourne project think a bit about water in the future of Melbourne in the next 10 to 20 years. And so following the presentations, we're going to ask you all to think with us a bit about what water in a future sustainable Melbourne will be like and how it will be treated and how we will deal with it. And we will have a microphone and so on, and we will be, we record on video all the presentations, the 3-minute presentations. They're all available from the sustainablemelbourne.com website. If you want to look back at past ones, go to the website and you can sit and watch the 7 presentations from the previous events. But after that, because we're going to move around the room and we want information from all of you, we're going to audio record it. And that audio recording will be available, as many other events are, on the Future Melbourne website. So you'll be able to listen to your contribution and other contributions and think back over this event. Of course, for all of these events, they don't finish here, because sustainablemelbourne.com is a site that engages with people. It's a blog site, although sometimes it doesn't look like that. And you have an opportunity to comment, to add, and in previous times we've had discussions around particular projects, which has engendered a lot of thinking afterwards and a lot more feedback via the site on various aspects of development. So we encourage you, you have the little card there, we encourage you to treat the site not only as a place that will be your first thought for publicising any work you're doing in relation to your sustainable activity, but also a great place to come to find out what's happening about Melbourne and comment on it. Okay, that's all from me until we come back together again. Now we have our speakers, and the order of the speakers is very clear, and we move through this very clearly. We don't introduce anybody. They are introduced by their own work, and we start with Rebecca Brown.